Right here. We kick it off this hour right here. The Trump administration is defending its $1 trillion budget deal in the face of a possible shutdown Friday. President Trump tweeting this: the reason for the plan negotiated between the Republicans and Democrats is that we need 60 votes in the Senate, which are not there. We either elect more Republican senators in 2018 or change the rules now to 51%. Our country needs a good shutdown in September to fix the mess. Budget Director Mick Mulvaney confirmed the president's comments. Listen to this.
If you wanted to imagine what a good shutdown was, it would be one that fixes this town.
So what would the
that one that
say?
drives the message back home to people that it really was as broken as they thought that it was when they voted for Donald Trump, and they would trust him that that's what it's necessary to do to fix Washington, D.C., that would be a good shutdown. This is a change agent president, and he's going to change Washington, D.C., and if it takes a shutdown, then that's what it takes.
Joining us right now is the Washington Examiner's chief political correspondent, Fox News contributor Byron York. Byron, good to see you, sir.
Good morning, Maria.
So the spending bill is expected to go to the House floor today and to the Senate tomorrow. Are you expecting a shutdown on Friday? And will that be a victory for the Democrats?
No, it's going to pass. Unlike Obamacare, this bill actually has to pass for the government not to shut down. And remember, members of Congress all want to go home tomorrow. They're going to spend 11 days in their district because we all take 11 days to observe Mother's Day. And so they're going to be gone, and they have to pass this. And the interesting thing is what you saw, and you can talk to Mick Mulvaney about this. He was very animated in the White House briefing room yesterday. They were playing catch-up because after the bill came out, the text was released. By the way, it's 1,665 pages long. Democrats really got the upper hand on claiming victory. They were doing a victory dance. Republicans were very upset about this. The base is saying, wow, we lost everything. Trump lost. And so what you saw was a White House full-court press claiming that they indeed did get their conservative priorities in the bill.
So wait a second. You said the Democrats claiming victory. Are you saying this was all PR, or do you think actually the Democrats did get victory here?
Well, they both got some things. I mean, clearly the White House wanted to reduce domestic discretionary spending, and it was increased. I mean, that's not a victory for the White House. On the other hand, there is a lot more defense spending, and if you listen to Paul Ryan and Mick Mulvaney yesterday, they both said the big victory was ending something called parity, which was this Obama-era practice where if Republicans wanted to increase defense spending, they had to increase dollar for dollar domestic spending, and that's not happening in this bill. They're claiming that as a big victory.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the first increase in defense spending, Heather Higgins, in 10 years.
Yeah, no, it is true that the Republicans actually did get something out of this, particularly the $21 billion they're getting rid of for defense, the elimination of the parity formula, essentially, and they actually did get some budget increases in things that they actually cared about. They didn't get the cuts and the pullbacks that they wanted. They did get the biggest increase in border security funding in 10 years, but that's not a high bar to cross, given how low it's been. The real issue, though, here is, or the interesting one is, this shutdown that we're talking about is not for this particular bill. It is for September, and what's really going on is Trump is schooling McConnell and Ryan about how to negotiate. You'll remember that this time they both said, oh, we'll never do a shutdown. Basically, in negotiating terms, that's saying, I will never walk away from the table. So you can roll me on anything because I'm too scared to leave the table. What Trump is saying is, I don't want a shutdown, but if I have to take a shutdown, that's the worst that could happen. Okay, that's the worst that can happen. I don't want to. So he's already setting up a different term of debate for when they come back in September after this short-term budget bill expires, so that he has more negotiating leverage. And that's really important. And the other thing that he's put on the table is the filibuster. That is the great roadblock that nobody talks about. There are two filibusters in the Senate procedure. Not just the classic one that everybody thinks about that ends debate and you move to the vote, or whether you're going to deliberate more, but the first one that has been misused for the last 30 years to stop having any discussion at all. It has created an artificial 60-vote threshold to have deliberation about any bill.
Right.
And if you take that off the table, suddenly all the stuff that can get through the House no longer has this 60-vote hurdle to at least get to a vote in the Senate. That would change the dynamic enormously monopoly on all the things that Trump wants to do. And at some point, that is going to become the critical issue, because this is a man who wants to win.
What about that, Byron? And also, what are the implications of a shutdown? Maybe this negotiating tactic is a smart one, you know? Maybe they should have a shutdown. What are the implications?
Well, what Heather is talking about is really a fight between Trump and the Republican leadership on Capitol Hill, because if there is one thing that is conventional wisdom in Washington, I mean, it's at the status of the 11th commandment in Washington, it is that Republicans always lose government shutdowns. And that, in terms of media coverage, that's pretty much true. That's been true of everything in the past. And so Republicans are just terrified of being blamed for some sort of shutdown of the government, even though it's a very partial thing, it's a very temporary thing, everybody gets paid in the end. But they're just absolutely terrified of doing that. As far as the filibuster is concerned, Trump is running up against Senate prerogatives there, and I think you saw that in the reaction from Mitch McConnell, which is basically, we decide what to do around here, Mr. President. We're not going to change the rules because you want us to.
And Republicans, Byron, also lose the public relations war, that the Democrats knew full and well what they were going to get out of the spending bill, and they got ahead of it. And they messaged it in a way that resonates, certainly, with their voting base, and then makes the Republicans angry. You saw how Paul Ryan and his ilk tried to sell that health care bill, and that was an absolute disaster. I mean, that was like a 8th grade algebra lesson done by the gym teacher.
I do think a lot of people Republicans were disappointed with Ryan's leadership as far as the Obamacare bill is concerned, which we're not talking about this morning, but it's still going on, and they may try to do it soon, although they're still apparently just a few votes short. But Ryan had always had almost legendary status among Republicans here in Washington as a policy wonk, as an expert on policy. But they wondered, well, as Speaker of the House, what can he do in terms of the sheer politics of it, and the Obamacare bill was not a good sign.
Yeah. All right, we will leave it there. Byron, always a pleasure. Great to see you, sir.
Thank you, Maria.
Byron York, and the director of the Office of Management and Budget, Mick Mulvaney, will join me in the next hour. Stay with us right here from Mick Mulvaney as he walks us through the spending bill, which, by the way, has money going to Planned Parenthood as well as to sanctuary cities, but not for the border wall. Well, that's debatable. $1.5 billion towards defense.